All right, welcome back, all of our lovely viewers, to the SpeechTherapyPD.com YouTube channel. I'm your host, Stephanie Michele Sweigart. I am a licensed and practicing school-based SLP out in Los Angeles, California. My pronouns are she, her, and today we have a special treat for you. We are going to dive into the world of childhood apraxia of speech with none other than the incredible Alonna Bondar, who is an esteemed SLP. She's going to maybe share some insights, strategies, or little golden nuggets of knowledge for us on this fascinating and very important topic. So whether you're an SLP or you're a parent or you're simply just curious, you're in for a real treat. Grab your favorite snack, hit that subscribe button, and let's get ready to dive into the world of CAS with the amazing Alonna Bondar. All right, Alonna, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. I know that you have over 23 years of experience working as an SLP in both home care and office settings, servicing the early intervention population, right? And now you're specializing in CAS and other speech sound disorders in a private practice setting. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
What is your private practice?
Okay, so I started in the early intervention population, and that's where I began going down that rabbit hole of childhood apraxia of speech, because I had these children that were just not making the progress that I wanted them to using a language-based therapy approach. And I was a really good clinician. Like, I had all the tricks and tips, but somehow there were these kids here and there that were just not progressing. And so I asked my mentor at the time, and I said, look, I have this little guy and I'm just not sure what to do with him. And she said, well, maybe he has CAS. And I didn't even really know what that meant. You know, we had learned itty bitty about it in graduate school, but enough to know, okay, maybe he does have CAS. And so I went down the rabbit hole of, Googling. Well, there wasn't Google at the time, actually, not 23 years ago, but we went down that rabbit hole of looking for courses where I found my, PD at the time, and taking as many courses as I can, reading the articles, reading the books, asking my colleagues. And it just began down this really long journey in which I ended up becoming prompt certified. And boy, the progress that I saw with my clients when I used the right approach. And that's what I really want to get across today, is that using a motor speech approach when a child needs it is really important. So when a kiddo has a language-based deficit and we use language-based therapy, great, that works well. But if it's not working, rethink the approach. Because if we use a motor speech approach with a child that ends up having a language-based disorder, they won't progress. They will progress regardless. The opposite is not true. So there's no downside. And like, if I can say, if you take away anything from this today, there is no downside to treating a suspected childhood apraxia of speech case with a motor speech, set of tips and tricks, using principles of motor learning and really diving into the motor speech as opposed to a traditional language-based therapy approach.
Okay. All right. That's a big takeaway right there. She wants you to remember that piece right there, because we know that you are also sharing other tips and tricks. You're the author on SpeechTherapyPD.com for a course called Suspected Childhood Apraxia of Speech in the Early Intervention Population, right? So I think the golden question that we have for you really is, if you could share, what would be 3 key insights or facts that you believe participants will really gain from your course, specifically focusing on suspected childhood apraxia of speech in that early intervention population?
Yes, sure, definitely. So first of all, just even understanding the discriminative characteristics of childhood apraxia of speech and how it differs from other language or speech sound disorders. So learning about vowel distortions, because that's a key discriminative characteristic of childhood apraxia of speech. Many of these children have vowel distortions. Now, in those real little ones, and this is where we're going to get into it in that course of, if they have a very small repertoire of sounds, will we even see those discriminative characteristics? And how do we make that distinction and say this child has suspected childhood apraxia of speech? What do we see? And how do we make that diagnosis even of suspected childhood apraxia of speech? So looking at the discriminative characteristics in a little child who has very few sounds, you may not even see many of those characteristics. Vowel distortions may pop up, but you probably won't see the fact that they have a limited syllable structure. That's any child that has a delayed language can also have limited syllable structure. So what I would like to go into in the course, what I'm going to go into, is really describing what sets apart this child from your child who's a delayed talker. And that's what I get questions on all the time. It's like, well, how do I know? You know, what do you see in this child? Because I get lots of children in my private practice where they've already been receiving early intervention services for a long time, and they're not making progress. And so the therapist knows enough to say, hey, you know, go to Alonna. She's the one who knows how to make that differential diagnosis. So we're going to discuss how to make that differential diagnosis in those little children that don't have a large speech sound repertoire. And then we're going to go into what is the difference in the treatment. So why do we want to make this diagnosis? Why is it so important to really make that differential diagnosis? And why is it important to be able to treat it properly? Because every speech sound disorder has its own treatment method. And we, as I said, we want to make sure that we're treating it with a motor speech. So motor, a lot of differences between the two. And we're going to go into that in more depth. What are the differences between a language-based therapy approach? How do we practice words in a language-based approach versus how do we practice words with a motor speech therapy approach? That's a big difference in that approach. And also we're going to just again discuss why there's no downside and how to get going with those little ones. Where do we start? What do we do with those little guys and feel confident really in making that differential diagnosis?
I'm hearing all of this and I'm thinking, you know, as an SLP myself, I would love checklists. Like I'm a checklist person. So if I'm taking a course and I'm learning, I'm thinking, I want to be able to know that I can write out all these things you're talking about that I need to look for as the flags to differentiate or to see or to decide on for treatment and be like, boop, 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 yes, no, like
yes.
My brain always goes to checklists for some reason. I'm like, yes, I want to be able to pull out my sheets and sit down and really needle into those.
Absolutely. And we will go through, like you say, a checklist. What should I be looking for?
Yes.
And I'm going to actually bring in a case study. I think there's 2 case studies really describing what did that child look like when they came into my office and what made me say, yes, this child has suspected childhood apraxia of speech. What were those characteristics that I saw in this child that I may not see in another child? And that's what therapists need to know. What am I looking for? So yes, you will get the checklist. You will get, let me just see, does the child, these errors, those errors, how long has the child been in therapy? What else has been tried before? Those are the key elements that we're looking for to say, well, has this child even received therapy for long enough period of time for us to say, well, oh, that's not working. So what else can we do?
Some reflection questions to think
Yeah,
about.
definitely.
Yes.
I know what to do. Yeah. And also, yeah, I'm sorry.
That makes our job much more efficient too, because we can just needle in, get right to it, know the questions to ask. It's like a nice little like handbook for ourselves.
We always want that. And also knowing, okay, so now this child is in front of us. And so you might want to refer that child out, but you also want to refer that child out with some information. What do I want to tell the therapist? Like when a child comes to me, I often reach out to the early intervention therapist. And so I want to give early intervention therapists that list of things that I need from them so that I know, oh, I'm going to test that in my office, but I'm going to want to know, what is the child's speech sound repertoire like? Can the child imitate sounds, words? Do they attempt imitation of those sounds and words? So I'm going to be asking those questions and I'm going to teach you what you need to look for in those clients and then how to refer them out if you need to.
Imitation's harder, correct? Like when they have to repeat something and it's not spontaneous, that's where it's harder for them. So looking for
absolutely, and that's a primary deficit. That's a primary deficit in childhood apraxia of speech, is being able to imitate on demand. That's what they have difficulty with. And that is the difference between the treatment, providing that multisensory cueing and helping the child be able to imitate and practice those motor movements.
Well, okay, so you're the person on this. You have obviously niched into this and you know what's going on. You're the checklist person, the course person, you have the information. If people want to learn more from you, get some free resources from you, where can they go? Where can they find you?
The best places to go is either from my Instagram, which my handle is Bondar Speech. I'm also at bondarspeech.com. You can reach out to me at bondarspeech@gmail.com. But if you go to my website, you'll find free handouts. You'll find lots of articles, research-based articles so you can start to learn more about childhood apraxia of speech. I have a wonderful blog that breaks down by different topics. Learn more about vowels. learn more about EI kits, suspected childhood apraxia of speech. What kinds of toys do I use? How do I get those repetitions? That's like the primary question I get. Alonna, how do you get all those repetitions in? Because we know that to build the motor plan, to acquire those motor plans, we need to practice, practice, practice. So I give some tips and tricks of like, the toys I use, the books I use. So go to my blog, bondarspeech.com. All the information about my courses is online as well, because as you mentioned, I do have 2 courses for clinicians. I also have a parent course, which breaks it down as well. And so you'll see treatment of childhood apraxia of speech. That's my treatment course. And then I have toys and tools in apraxia of speech, which really helps you dive into how do I use play? Because there's a lot of information. Well, can we use play for apraxia therapy? Is a child going to be too distracted? How do I maximize the treatment time? Also motivating these little guys, because if we're working with a 2.7, 2.8-year-old child, it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun or they're not here, right? We lose them pretty quickly. So how do we engage them?
Right.
Right. How do we engage them without too much fun so that now we have them distracted? And there's this really, this balance of keeping them engaged, but not too distracted so that they're not paying attention to the multisensory cue. That's really important.
SLPs and SLPAs are superstars. I swear. It's
We
like,
are, aren't we?
oh my gosh, we have to do so much. We are superstars. So that's
We are. Yay for us. Yes.
Yay for us and yay for you. So for everybody, and yay for everybody listening.
Yes.
So this episode, we have all the links for everything that you just heard Alonna share. So you can literally just click and go and be connected instantly. So for other topics, everybody, this is really important. If you want to take a deeper dive into this particular topic, I should start there. If you want to take a deeper dive into this topic, you can further your education on this course on speechtherapypd.com, which is called Suspected Childhood Apraxia of Speech in Early Intervention Population with SLP presenter Alonna Bondar. And then you've heard where all of her other resources are. If you want to take and go even further in your exploration and connect with her, you can do so. For other topics aside from CAS, when you subscribe to speechtherapypd.com, you're going to get 1-year access to over 1,000 live and on-demand courses, and you can also scoop up those ASHA CEUs that we need. If you're new to speechtherapypd.com, you can also access a free course. So just check below this episode and you can get details on that as well. Everybody, we're going to say goodbye now for our episode, and I really want to maybe just invite you, this little invitation to carry forward the spirit of compassion and mindfulness, just remembering and that when we are supporting others with CAS, that this goes beyond just the technicalities, right? It's also about connecting to others' hearts with compassion. So until our next adventure, let's just approach every speech journey with all of our clients really with that open heart, with our mindful ears, and a commitment to really making a positive impact. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this valuable conversation. Together, we can create this world where every voice is heard and every voice is valued. Take care, everybody.